Hello everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. Thank you very much for joining this session about the program at SSEES. I just want to talk you through a general outline of the programs which we offer, and forgive me if this is stuff which you're already familiar with, and then leave time at the end so that you can ask me questions which you may well have. Let me just come to the first content slide here. Right, okay, yes, so this is just a little bit of background information really about what SSEES is and how we fit into UCL as a university. It's a very interesting specialist institution originally, which is over 100 years old, as I'm sure you know, the School of Slavonic and East European Studies. And we joined UCL in 1999. And have a dedicated building on Taviton Street just next to the main campus of UCL. And as I'm sure you know, it is the largest unit in the UK and possibly in the world. It's certainly a very significant concentration of expertise on the region of Eastern Europe. We have about 100 staff and over 1,000 students, undergraduate and postgraduate, and we offer a very wide range of BA degrees and MA degrees and PhD programs and the MRes degrees as well. I think a great strength of SSEES for students and for staff is our fantastic library and the fact that it is actually housed in our building. It's at the heart of our building, and most of it is open shelf access, which is wonderful. So the resources which are in this library are absolutely wonderful. And of course, just down the road, we've got the British Library and the University of London Library in the Senate House building as well. But I personally find that everything I could ever possibly want is there in the SSEES library. So, you know, when you're taking these important decisions about where to study, what type of a program to choose, and so on, I think that some of the things which perhaps make SSEES a particularly kind of worthwhile choice and worth thinking about. One is the fact that we do a lot of small group teaching, very interactive, very sort of, especially in the language and culture program, where we have sometimes, you know, very small dedicated modules which run, or very specific language modules which are just perhaps put on for one particular student or two students who might need that level of the language. And in terms of the literature, culture, film modules, also the groups might range from 5 to maximum of about 12 or 15, I think, for some of our most popular modules. We try to offer modules which are both firmly within the literature and culture discipline, but also which cross over into the disciplines of history and politics. And as you know, some of the MA programs allow you to combine some of these different disciplines in interesting ways. And of course, the modules which you're actually registered for, the sort of formal part of your studies, is only quite a small part of what our students do, because there are a lot of other things going on. The research students run their own PhD seminar program. We have a lot of invited speakers who come and give talks regularly. For some of the MA programs, we run a series of talks. Svetlana Macmillan organizes them in Russian with participation. So it's a very, very lively kind of series of events going on around your studies, as well as what you're actually registered for studying. Most of our students choose to study full-time, but some do it part-time, which can work out extremely well if you've got a job and you want to take things at a slower pace, and if you did it part-time, the dissertation would be in the second year, and some of the modules would be in the first year. We have 3 particular programs, as you can see: Central and Southeast European Studies, which focuses on that particular area; the Russian Studies MA, which is multidisciplined and enables you to take modules from politics or history, as well as literature and culture, and to specialize in a particular track within that sort of loose envelope; and the Russian and East European Literature and Culture MA, which is very popular and which is the kind of the dedicated track for students who really know that this is the area they want to specialize in, and perhaps are using the MA as preparation maybe for carrying on to do research in the area. If you are interested in the MRes, which is by research and has a much more sort of a much larger dissertation component, there will be a separate information session on that on the 29th of November. The structure of these programs essentially follows a pattern of certain core training modules, which are to train you in the particular discipline which you have picked for your MA program, and around that a wide range of modules which you can pick and choose from. Details of those are available on our website, and the only thing I would say is that not everything runs every year. Sometimes certain members of staff are on sabbatical and some modules are not offered. But do look on the website if you haven't done already, because that gives a really good example of the kind of range of different things that we do. And staff teach MA courses according to their own research interests and particular areas of expertise. So you really are taught by people who are specializing and actively researching in this particular area. We also very much encourage you to either develop a language which you may already have. With Russian, we offer many different levels, from beginners through intermediate to advanced and super advanced. With all the East European languages, we also offer beginners or intermediate. And of course, the dissertation is the original piece of research which you produce, which can build on the modules which you've chosen, and in which you can sort of really formulate your own topic, and under close supervision write a research paper, which in the case of some of our students has been of publishable level and has often served as a kind of platform for preparing for future PhD. So I've touched on this already. Here are some of my dear colleagues. Really the point I want to make here is what I was saying before, which is that we do all teach and very much enjoy teaching in the areas which we also do our research and our writing in. So here, for example, you have the first person on these slides, William Blacker, who specializes in the study of the literature and culture of Ukraine, or the last person on the right-hand side, Rachel Morley, who's a great specialist in the history of Russian cinema from its silent beginnings to the present, and who refashions her modules each year on current cinema. So this is just a list of all the languages which we offer, not all of which are necessarily taken up or taught at MA level each year, but we have language teachers who are there and ready to teach these if there's a demand. And I would very much encourage you to perhaps consider taking up a new language, a new perhaps less popular, less well-known East European language as an extra element to add to your MA studies. So I touched on this already when I said that your sort of formal studies are only a small part of what you do. I've mentioned, I think, the research and the seminar series, which are very lively and very busy. We have a long-standing cinema studies series of seminars which meets on a Monday evening. We have a new initiative, for example, called ProLangs, which offers seminars in the area of intersection between language studies and politics and culture, which is proving to be popular. And we have informal activities also, like the lunchtime post-Soviet press group, which meets just to discuss informally together what has been of particular interest in the news over the last week. And of course, public events with a lot of distinguished speakers who come to address us on different topics. So that's all really exciting and I think very important when you're sort of looking to the future and to the wider context in which you're undertaking your studies and planning for future careers. Well, London is, as I'm sure you know, a great place to study because of all the other things that are going on around London. And I'm, for example, very fond of Pushkin House, which is a 10-minute walk away in Bloomsbury, which runs a fantastic series of exhibitions and cultural events. The Ukrainian Institute, we have also extremely close connections with our staff and organize a lot of events together with them. The same applies to various think tanks and international partners that we work with. Yeah, so this is just a general list of the types of areas in which our graduates go on to work in. As you can see, it's quite varied, from policy, government think tanks to careers in the media, in journalism, sometimes further research, people who want to become academics or who want to do a PhD, international work of different types. And if you're interested in this, we can put you in touch with more detailed information on it. Okay, so the applications, we look for a good upper class, second class degree or a first class degree. A knowledge of language is not compulsory, but we do want to see in your personal statement very clear motivation about why it is that you've picked this particular MA program, what it is that interests you about the area, about the discipline, the subject, what you want to do with it in the future. This is what I, as admissions tutor, find really interesting and important to read and to think about in connection with your application. So you don't necessarily need to have studied previously in the area that you're planning to study in your MA program. But if you're making a transition from one subject at undergraduate level to taking up a new area at MA level, your personal statement is where you'll explain why you're doing this and what motivates you to want to do this. So we will be having an in-person open evening to which you're warmly invited, which will be towards the end of January next term. Our admissions team at SSEES is wonderful and very responsive, and if there's any query which needs specialist attention or an academic opinion, it's referred to me, and I'm very happy to be in touch with any of you directly. And of course, a lot of the information is available on the website, in our handbooks, and in the outlines of our various programs. So I think, there are many different ways you can get information, and I do encourage you to actually come and visit us in person, because I think that gives you a real flavour of the place. All right, we've come to the end of the slides. So now I'll be really happy to speak to some of you and answer any questions which you may have.
Thank you, Pamela. I'd just like to, whilst you're thinking about any questions that you might have, just hand over to Maddie, who's one of our current MA students on the Russian and East European literature and culture. Was it this year you started, Maddie? You on the full time?
Yes, so I'm one of the full-time students. So I started in September and hopefully I'll end next September.
And would you mind saying a few words about how you found it so far, what your background was, and kind of any modules that have stood out perhaps, and what you might be planning to do after you graduate?
So I actually did my undergrad in the region as well. I'm an American international student, and I did my bachelor's degree in Russian, East European, and Eurasian Studies at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm sorry, I have a cat in the background who's making a mess of my kitchen. If you hear weird noises, please ignore her. She's in a cone and she's cranky. Sorry about that. So your experience at SSEES is really what you make it, and it's really flexible. So my first term here is really, really slow. I only have 2 classes, and then next term is when I'll be really busy. I'll have 4 classes. As of right now, I'm still just kind of finding my footing, but I'm really excited for my modules next semester. I'm really excited there's a class I'll be taking about Ukrainian literature as well as Soviet Union in the Cold War. So that will be really fun. I will say if you want to be involved in the department, I recommend going online, finding what you're interested in, such as like the research labs, the seminars, and then following those as well. So it's really the amount of time that you want to put into the department will kind of decide your experience.
Thank you. Cats are always welcome, and dogs on these calls. So over to questions. Jess, I don't know if you've got one. You put your camera on. Really nice to see your face. Did you want to ask anything, or are you just saying hello?